Hello, Yama Killer here, coming to you with a special video series that I'm going to be doing every week from now on. Now, this video series includes what my choices for each format each week, what decks I would play for those formats. This is mainly in regards to the format challenges that happen every weekend, though this can be also related to something like the SCG Championship Online, a MOX event, or just any random tournament, Mana Trader Series, Lotus Box, any such and so forth. But the idea of this series is to create an idea of what each week I would be playing, or what decks that I think are good in each format. I'm going to be going down the 6 main formats: Standard, Pioneer, Modern, Legacy, Vintage, and Pauper. And hopefully it'll give you guys some insight into what I think about the formats and what I would play. And I'll tell you guys if I think I don't know much, but just this is what I'm thinking off the top of the head, or I've been playing the format a lot this week or this month or so on and so forth, and why I think the decks are good. Now, I'm going to start off from the top with Standard. Now, I'm going to be honest, I have not played nearly any Standard at all for this new set. I haven't been watching very much, but I have talked to my chat and I asked them what was particularly good in the format, and this is what I'm thinking for the 3 decks that I would choose or choose between for the format. Now, first is Bant Ramp. It was a mainstay for much of the format since Nissa, Who Shakes the World, has come out. Nissa, Teferi, Elspeth Conquers Death is kind of your engine. Makes it so you're good against the Reclamation decks. Makes it so you are able to attack and go big. And the new addition is Ugin the Spirit Dragon. If you get a land Ugin, most of the time you're just going to clear the board and you gotta win. So it's kind of just a powerful new addition. Basically, you get to play all the good Bant cards, 28 lands, Nissa, Uro, Teferi. Just kind of a good card stack that ramps into good stuff. And it's basically just an all-around solid deck. It's not like insane or anything, but definitely a reasonable choice. As I saw from the stats, tons and tons of good players did well with it in the Standard Challenge this weekend. Another deck, Team of Reclamation, still around, still great. Reclamation, Uro, Shark Typhoon, finish them off with Expansion Explosion. Did well at the PT, won all the PTs, I believe, or at least won a good chunk of them. So kind of makes sense that it's still good, even with M21 not too much shaking up the format. Now, my choice, personally, I would play Mono Red Aggro. I don't know much about the format. I'm an aggro player at heart most of the time. This looks perfect. Curve out 1, 2, 3 Anax into Embercleave, kill him dead. It's kind of my go-to. If you don't know much about the format, I would suggest Mono Red or some aggro deck that you can find. Now, I also want to say that most of the deck lists that I'm showing are deck lists from the previous week's challenges or leagues that I see from players that are high note or people that I've talked to. So these deck lists that I'm showing, I'm not going to be putting in the description because I don't think that they're necessarily the best deck lists, and I think you should be working them on with yourself or other people. But these are the archetypes that I would play rather than the deck list. So let's move on to Pioneer. Now, Pioneer, I think, is mostly kind of a dumpster fire right now, and I think there are basically 2 decks you should be playing. And then I'll tell you maybe another 1 or 2 decks that I think are reasonable-ish if you just don't want to play the top archetypes like me. Now, here is the first deck list. Lotus Breach, combo deck, hard to interact with in the main deck, and most of the ways they have to interact with you, you get to deal with in the board. And it just kills on turn 4 pretty damn consistently, or turn 5 as well. Sometimes you get some cheeky turn 3s in there, but it's just very consistent combo deck, hard to interact with, kills quickly. Has good interaction in the sideboard. Great decision. Now, the second great decision, which I think is also very good, Dimir Inverter. It plays combo control, which I think is one of the strongest archetypes you can basically play in any format. It allows you to control the board and control their hand with Thoughtseize, Thought Erasure, have control the board with Fatal Push, Hero's Downfall, great Planeswalkers and card advantage, Jace Turns Prodigy, Jace Wielder, and a combo kill with Inverter / Thassa's Oracle. And you're going to play the best card in the format, Dig Through Time. It's just all around great combo control elements, and you get to shore up your aggro matchups in the sideboard, and even in the aggro matchups you can play a Roadblock and Thassa's Oracle, Fatal Push them, and go for a quick combo if you really need to. All around, those 2 archetypes I think are the best things you can be doing in Pioneer. Now, personally, I would have 2 different ways that I would play if you don't want to play these archetypes, because I find them incredibly boring to play with and against. So I'm going to try and subvert the tier 0 per se archetypes, and I would play one of these 2 decks. I would play Mono White Devotion. I think if you are not playing a combo kill in your deck, I think you are most likely going to be losing a lot of equity in your Pioneer matches. This combo, you get Heliod plus Ballista for infinite life and damage, You have Karn the Great Creator to interact with your opponent in a lot of meaningful ways. Great Karn sideboard. Allows you to interact with Lotus Breach and Dimir Inverter. Sometimes it's slow, but this is a deck that I think has a fine matchup against Dimir. You're definitely bad against Lotus Breach, but you're pretty much great across the board, across the other random matchups which people will be playing, because, like me, they don't like playing Inverter or Breach. Another deck is just mono red aggro of some sort. You don't necessarily have to be as low to the ground as this. You can play some Goblin Rabble Masters, you can play some Torbrands, some Embercleaves and such. But I think this is a fine deck because people are now starting to tech a lot more for Lotus Breach and Dimir Inverter, and when people are cutting the anti-aggro cards, sometimes you just get a Monastery Swift Spear out of a Great Reveal people out. And that's just a great way to play sometimes. People aren't expecting it. So those are my picks for Pioneer. I think there are other reasonable picks like Banned Spirits, some other things like a blue-white control / Jeskai Super Friends deck. But I think if you want to be winning, these are the 4 archetypes that I'd be gravitating towards. Now, let's move on to Modern. Now, I believe Modern has a Tier 1 archetype. Let us move to it down here. It is Blue, Green, X Control. Now, you have the most busted card that's come out recently, Uro. You have Mystic Sanctuary to rebuy all your spells, basically. A Mystical Tutor on a fetch land. And you get to play just great cards like Force Negation for anti-combo. And allows you to just kind of like interact with decks like Tron and E-Tron. In a meaningful way before like you can set up with your Ice Fang Waddles and such. Basically, you get to play Baleful Strix instant speed, Uro, which is an insane way to get back once all the resources have been traded, Force Negation to deal with combo and quick spell-based kills, and then you have Mystic Sanctuary, which is Mystical Tutor basically, and you're gonna play like all great blue spells and great interaction. Whether you play black, white, red, a bunch of different ways you can go with it, even 4-color because of Arcum's Astrolabe, another one of the most busted cards in the format. If you want to win in Modern right now, and you are not playing Blue-Green X, you are doing yourself a disservice. Now, personally, I like winning, but also, I find playing against and with these decks horrendous. So, I'm not going to play them. Also, if you are multi-queuing, if you were playing this in another format, it is almost impossible to do so, because if you play a mirror, which you will see a lot of this deck, you are going to get trounced because of time management. So be wary of that. Make sure that you have at least a little bit of rest before you play this deck. Time management will be very important in the mirror and other grindy matchups like the red-green Klithos deck, Jund, and some other archetypes that really grind you out. Now, what deck will I be playing? I said I'm not going to be playing Blue-Green X because I want to blow my brains out when I play against or with this deck. So what am I going to play? I'm going to play Old Trusty Eldrazi Tron. Now, I've been playing a lot of Eldrazi Tron this week. I've actually been doing completely fine with it. I think it's pretty damn good. Karn the Great Creator is still good, and when you draw Tron, it's still Busto. Eldrazi Temple plus TKS on turn 2 or turn 3, still usually good enough in this format. I think this deck is not necessarily Tier 1, but I enjoy playing it, so that is what I'm going to play. Another great archetype to be playing, Goblins with Conspicuous Snoop, has early kills, is actually somewhat reasonable against the Blue-Green X decks, depending on your configuration. And you can kill other decks very quickly that try to race you, with Conspicuous Snoop plus the Kiki-Jiki and all that combo. So if I were to play any archetypes right now, I would most likely play Blue-Green X and Goblins if you're trying to win, Eldrazi Tron if you're trying to have fun while still being competitive. And fun is different for most people, as I myself find enjoyment in making sure opponents can't play Magic when you play Chalice on 1/2 or so on and so forth. But those are my picks for Modern. Now, let's move on to Legacy. Legacy, I'm going to be completely honest, I have no idea what I'm talking about, essentially. I actually didn't even get the deck here, but what I would say to play is Temur Delver in some sort. You get Oko, Delver, Dreadhorde Arcanist, basically all the Busto cards from Delver, plus Oko and Dreadhorde Arcanist, some new Busto cards into the Legacy format. A lot of different things you can be doing. You can be playing Snow Control, you can be playing 4-color Loam, you can be playing Reanimator, you can be playing Storm. I think if there is a format where there's a lot of openness right now, it is Legacy, lots of different archetypes you could play. But I would be playing Temur Delver because I've had practice with Delver before, and I think it's a very, very powerful archetype. Sadly, I couldn't put it in front of you as I accidentally did not download it before this video. But Temur Delver is what I would choose, but I think there's lots and lots of different decks you can choose. And personally, as someone who hasn't played Legacy for a month or two consistently, I think there's a lot of things you can do, but don't take my word for that. Possibly look to some other Legacy specialists like Onzi on Twitch, and some other people that I'm probably forgetting, Legacy Council and so on and so forth, streamers and active on Twitter as well. Now, let's go to Vintage. a format that I've been playing a lot of. What my pick for this weekend is going to be Grixis Underworld Breach. I've been playing a lot of blue-green or blue-X Xerox decks. I think they're pretty good. Bazaar Baghdad, I think, is probably actually the best thing to be doing in some way or another. Hollowvine, Dredge, the new Hogak deck that's been coming out. But I'm really bad at Bazaar Baghdad, and I'm pretty good at drawing Ancestral Recall. So I'm going to be playing this deck. I wanted to play Underworld Breach because I thought it would be good in the Xerox mirrors as well as against Bazaar. So, and it plays well to the playstyle of myself. Another deck you could be playing if you were fairly new and you want to be Bazaar Baghdading people. You can play Hollowvine, you can play Dredge, great ways to abuse Bazaar Baghdad, one of the most powerful lands in the format. You could also cheese some people out with Ravager Shops, which you use Mishra's Workshop, the other most powerful land in the format. Try to turn one Trinisphere people, make it so they can't play the game essentially, and then aggro them out. Another great archetype, I think. While definitely tier 2 or 3, because of the fact that a lot of people are powered up and you have not. I think this is still a reasonable choice along with the Bazaar Baghdad decks. Now, let's finish off with Pauper, the last format that is kind of being left behind now with the new mock system, changing from Pauper to Vintage, as well as people, not really getting too into it. Me, myself, I hate a lot of the games that actually go on in Pauper, but I found this deck pretty reasonable and fun to play as you get to combo kill people. I'm playing Affinity, a great aggro deck, good against Tron, and even against some other decks you get a race with Atog plus Fling, like against the red-white deck and against Delver. And I think this is a very good choice in the format right now. People have been saying that Tron is tier 0. This is what the Tron decks looks like. Essentially, you just try to set up, making it so your opponent can never take an attack step ever again, and then set up essentially infinite counters with Mnemonic Wall plus Ghostly Flicker plus something like Prohibit or Condescend, and then you kind of lock them out of the game that way and eventually kill them with some form of interaction or another. But these would be my top picks for Pauper right now, Affinity and Tron. And yeah, I hope this was useful to you. I know I went a little quickly and didn't necessarily explain all my thoughts fully, but I want to keep it somewhat compact and just kind of give you deck ideas on what to be looking at, rather than if you are new to a format or you want to try something out, or you're just thinking of what a grinder's perspective on what they would want to play. These are the decks that I would play for each format, and I would hope it gave you some insight into both my thinking about the formats and like a grinder's perspective and what decks are necessarily good in the format. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it a lot. If you guys like this content, this style of content of what decks to be playing each week, make sure to tell me in the description or in the comments below. Make sure to give this a like and subscribe if you like it. Description below you'll see my Twitch, which I will be playing nearly all these formats every weekend to put my money where my mouth is and play these decks and show you that they're either good or bad. Maybe I made a bad decision this week. But make sure to follow me there. You can see my content live. It'll also be my Twitter. That's where I post all my videos as well as content and when I go live on streams and other random things about Magic and life. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it a lot, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.